Hi everybody, this is Celeste and I'm a Nationally Certified Interventionist, and welcome to my live today. And I wanted to talk today about cognitive behavioral therapy. It's called CBT for short, and this is something that I've used quite a bit with my clients. I have a day job as well, working with people in the mental health field, and so I do CBT coaching for my day job as well, and it's something that I find is so transforming and something that's so helpful for people. So I wanted to talk about it as a concept and how I help clients utilize CBT to their benefit. So it's something that's used a lot in substance use and mental health for mental health disorders like anxiety or depression. And so what it does is it really looks at, we talk a lot about the 5 different areas, and that can be situations, thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and physical. So it really looks at all those 5 areas and how they interact with one another and how they all impact one another, right? And even with physical symptoms, so if somebody's sick or has an underlying medical condition, it really can start to affect their thoughts and their feelings and their mental health. And there's a lot of mental health disorders related to illness and medical conditions. So it really looks at utilizing all those aspects and making sure that all those areas, or working to get those areas in balance so that they aren't having a negative impact on one another. So what I really do with people is start to look at areas that they're struggling with in their life. So say if it's depression, and underneath that is I feel worthless, I feel useless, I don't feel like I'm a valuable person or that I contribute anything. And of course when you have those thoughts, it's going to lead to feelings of depression or even anxiety. And then those thoughts of depression and anxiety are going to potentially lead to behavior. So potentially avoiding social contact, avoiding doing work tasks, because if I feel worthless, I'm not going to maybe feel as motivated to do those tasks because I don't feel like I'm going to be able to do them well enough, right? And those symptoms of depression, and oftentimes there's those symptoms of depression that include fatigue, not having energy, not being able to sleep, things like that, not being able to concentrate. So these areas all do impact one another, and it can be rooted back to maybe situations in childhood or work or in relationships of maybe somebody that was highly critical, like a parent or a boss or a spouse, can lead to those thoughts of feeling worthless, right? And they all impact one another. So and then as you become more depressed and unmotivated and avoiding some of those tasks or avoiding people, those thoughts of feeling worthless just get worse, and it's like a vicious cycle. So where CBT really comes in is looking at some of those underlying thoughts that lead to those feelings of depression and the physical symptoms and the behaviors. And so even take the thoughts of feeling worthless. So and starting to challenge those thoughts. So with somebody that feels worthless, well, what evidence is there for that? And is it from childhood? Is it something that a parent said? Is there actual evidence that you don't have value? Or is it, maybe you made a mistake as a kid, maybe you didn't do the dishes right, or you didn't clean your room right, and maybe you got corrected, and that maybe somebody didn't actively say that you were worthless, but maybe that somebody telling you, you need to improve cleaning your room in ABC, and maybe that led to those feelings of worthlessness. So really starting to challenge those ideas, and what are your positives? Like what are your strengths? What do you bring to the table? And starting to look at those and challenging your worthlessness, right? And seeing where you have value and worth in the world, because everybody everybody's different. Everybody has different strengths. And that's what I really look at with people, is challenging those thoughts of feeling worthless, or, I don't have value in this world, and really starting to get people thinking about where their strengths lie, taking that strengths-based approach with people and helping them to identify where their strengths are and building on that, rather than, because a lot of times, me, for example, I'll use my own personal experience. I was very, very shy as a kid. I was very introverted. Even my grade 1 teacher called my parents and said, like, is there something going on with your child? Like, she's super shy, and like, is she mute? Like, what's going on? And my mom says she's just really shy. And so I always had people telling me as a kid, you're too shy, you need to talk more. And I used to think of that as a negative, but then I would find people oftentimes coming to me looking for advice or wanting to talk. So that was actually the strength in that, right? So people were looking to tell me how to improve and how to become more extroverted, because our society places so much value on extroverts. And, and I did, to a certain extent, I did have to learn to be more extroverted to be able to be successful in the world and work and social situations and making friends and stuff. So there was some value to that. There was some constructive value in that. But I also had to realize that in my strengths, there was value in that as well. So introverts have a lot of value in being good listeners and supportive and all that kind of stuff. So, it's about, and that's a good example of CBT, is changing that thought pattern that introversion is bad, extroversion is good, and you need to be more extroverted to be successful in the world. So I had to start to change that inner dialogue, right? So I just wanted to bring a real life example into that, to kind of talk about that a little bit. So, and once I started to have that thought that, introversion can be good, it can be a good quality to have, it actually started to raise my confidence, and I started to actually, and then that was the thought. Extroversion is good. Introversion is bad. I changed that to introversion can be a strength. That changed my feelings, so I felt more confidence. And then my behaviors changed. And I started to be more extroverted. I started to make more friends. I started to do better at work. So that was the behavior that led to a very good consequence. So I was able to be more successful, and the only thing that changed was my thought. So, and this is why I find that CBT is a really effective tool for a lot of people that are struggling in addiction, anxiety, depression, and things like that. I think it can be really, really useful. And, it's not something that is easy by any stretch of the imagination. And, and I've worked with people anywhere from 15 to, I've worked with an 85-year-old, and, and people from all walks of life, people that are in school, so students, people that are recovering from a major medical condition or surgery, or being laid off, or dealing with COVID, people that are recently retired, and, and even with retirement. I was just talking to somebody the other day about they're going into retirement, and that's a positive stress. Right? So we oftentimes think of stress as being negative, and, being stressed out by, the kids are screaming, I've got to make dinner, I've got a deadline at work, my mom's in the hospital and she's sick. And so even with positive stress, there can be thoughts, like even with the retirement example, in I don't have any value anymore. I think especially for men put a lot of value on their work and being productive and supporting their family. So sometimes for men especially, retirement can be difficult, because then they start to question their value. What do I contribute now? And I mean, not that women aren't like that. A lot of women are like that, but just in our society, generally men tend to struggle with retirement a little bit more than women. And so, the stress that goes along with that, and having those thought patterns with even positive stress. Or even weddings is another example of positive stress. I mean, it's a great event, but there's, I'm sure anybody that you know that's gotten married, or if you've gotten married, there definitely is some stress around that. So and just even working with people from all walks of life and different and even different levels of depression or anxiety or mental health concerns. I've worked with people that have very minimal depression or anxiety, but they just want to improve. They just want to find some tools to help improve that. Or, I've worked with people that have been very borderline actively suicidal. And, I worked with one person that I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be a struggle with this person. And they were having, some serious thoughts around suicide and self-harm. And there were some points in working with this person where I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if this person can turn this around. And, but we just kept trying and trying and trying. And this person eventually, by the time at the end of our working together, I was so impressed because there was a complete 180 and, got to a point where they were loving life and loving where they were at, and their thoughts and their emotions were completely different. And and having said that, there is a lot of hard work and a lot of grueling work and a lot of self-assessment and self-awareness and a lot of really having to dig deep and do some of that really, really hard work in making some of these changes. It isn't something that you can just say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to wake up, I'm going to change my thoughts, I'm going to change my emotions, I'm going to change my behaviors, and everything's going to be different. It's, as much as I would like to say that, yeah, that happens. You just magically wake up and everything's better. It's oftentimes for people, what I find is that it's, it is progressive, and it is something that you have to work on and make gradual changes and tweaks and do the work and put that time and effort into, figuring out where, like, even a lot of times I find with people, there's common thought patterns, right? So there might be 5 or 6 different situations that they're struggling with. Like maybe they're struggling in work and relationships and managing the kids and stuff at home. And I find that in talking to people, there's often 1 or 2 common underlying thought patterns that, and then once they start to challenge those and progressively get better, then things start to change. But it's not for most people, and I'm sure that some people do make that magical shift, and I'm not discounting that, but it's rare. It is really rare, but and it can happen. I won't say that it doesn't, but for the great majority of people, there is that progressive process that has to go on and gradual progression. And and I've seen it be very effective, and I've seen it work really well for people. And I've done CBT, and it's done amazing things for me. I was I think especially when I was in active addiction, and the substances didn't help my thought patterns because alcohol is a depressant. So you take somebody that's already depressed and you add a depressant, well, there goes the gong show. So there was that chemical imbalance going on in my brain already, and then creating an extra chemical imbalance with the alcohol just made it that much worse, right? And I had a lot of those underlying thoughts of feeling worthless and like I wasn't worthy and I didn't have anything to contribute. And as I got sober and started to do the work, I started to see those progressive changes. And it wasn't, and again, it wasn't something that just magically happened overnight and, wave your magic wand and everything's better. I had to do a lot of work on that, and I still do. And, I still have to catch myself every so often having one of those thoughts like, what am I doing here? What do I contribute? And it's, so every so often I have to check in with my thoughts and even sometimes too, I'll be talking to somebody and I'll do something. I'll be like, oh, what an idiot. I can't believe I did that. And people are like, really? It's not that catastrophic. And, sometimes even other people will catch me. And, so yeah, I find that CBT can be very effective. And that's not to say that somebody should do just CBT alone, right? And this is something too that even in a lot of the studying that I've done and a lot of the psychology courses that I've taken, I'm a firm believer and a proponent of a holistic approach, right? So, and for a lot of people, medications can be very helpful, especially if they're in a very deep state of depression or anxiety. When that happens, is people can feel very, and depending on the mental health disorder, so say take depression for example, there tends to be this sense of not feeling unmotivated, feeling tired, not even being able to get out of bed to do some of the therapies that you do in coaching or in counseling, or with anxiety, and I struggle with anxiety, and sometimes a problem will come up and my brain goes in, like it freezes and it goes into this fog, and I can't even think of a solution. I can't even brainstorm what are potential solutions to this problem because my brain just locks right up. And so sometimes too, talking to a doctor and getting medication to start to balance some of those neurotransmitters and some of the hormones in your system can be a very good therapeutic approach to even get somebody to doing something like CBT. And I mean, CBT is effective for a lot of different underlying mental health conditions. And having said that, there's, mental health disorders that CBT can be effective, but also adding in other therapies, right? So, sometimes there's dialectical behavioral therapy, which is an offshoot of CBT. With phobias and fears, there's exposure therapy, so exposing somebody to the things that they're afraid of in a gradual, progressive way. We're not going to just throw you into a pool of spiders. That's not, that wouldn't be helpful. It would likely just add to the fear, but doing a gradual exposure therapy and stuff like that. So it definitely is one tool in a toolbox that you can use to improve some of that stuff in mental health and substance use. And it's something that I wanted to talk about it today because it's something that I've used quite a bit and that I've seen quite a few good results with. But the disclaimer here with doing CBT, and something that I'm very firm on with my coaching clients, is that you have to do the work, and I'm a big homework person. So when I'm coaching somebody and we're talking about goals and CBT and changing thoughts and prevention of relapse and relapse prevention and coping skills, I tend to send people away with homework and things that they need to do in between coaching sessions. And I'm very big on holding people accountable because you aren't going to see the results of coaching sessions unless you do the homework. And I'm very, at the beginning of each session, I talk to people about how their homework went and seeing if there's any tweaks and holding people accountable for doing their homework. And people probably would have hated me as a teacher because I'm like, yeah, what about your homework? Did you get that done? And so, I don't want to see people wasting their time and money doing coaching if they're not going to do the homework. That's a very key part because, for me, I want to see people get the results that they deserve in life, and you're not going to get those without doing the homework. So I am really adamant about that. So, if you want to see the results and you're willing to do the work, I encourage you to let's set up a call. We'll get talking about what you want to accomplish and how I can help support you in doing that. And I will post the link after the video is done, and you can book a call with me and we'll get to work. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.